You're sitting in church. The light streams through stained glass windows. The priest is reading from the Bible. Everything feels sacred, ancient, timeless. But what if I told you there's something they're not telling you? Something that's been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories or wild speculation. I'm talking about historical facts that most people never hear about. Real documents, real evidence, real history that somehow got lost along the way. Today, we're diving deep into one of the biggest mysteries in religious history. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at ancient Christianity the same way again. Before we begin, let me be clear. This isn't about attacking anyone's faith. This is about understanding history. Because when we understand where we came from, we understand ourselves better. And the truth is always worth seeking. So buckle up. This is going to challenge everything you thought you knew. The discovery. December 1945. A farmer in Egypt is digging for fertilizer near the town of Nag Hammadi. His shovel hits something hard, a large jar, sealed and buried in the sand. He's nervous. In Egypt, legends say that jars like this contain jinn, spirits that can curse you. But he's also poor, and maybe there's gold inside. He smashes the jar. Instead of gold, he finds books, ancient books, 13 leather-bound codices filled with text in Coptic, an ancient Egyptian language. The farmer has no idea what he's found. He takes them home, and his mother uses some of the pages to kindle fire for cooking. Can you imagine? Some of the most important religious texts in history burned as kindling. But enough survived, and when scholars finally examined what remained, they were shocked. These weren't just any books. These were Gospels, early Christian texts, some dating back to the 1st and 2nd centuries, as old as the Gospels in your Bible today. The hidden Gospels. Here's where it gets interesting. You know the 4 Gospels, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are the official accounts of Jesus' life that made it into the Bible. But the Nag Hammadi library contained over 50 texts, Gospels that never made it into the Bible. The Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Judas. Wait, the Gospel of Judas, the betrayer. Yes, and what these texts say is stunning. What was in these texts? Let me read you something from the Gospel of Thomas. This gospel is just sayings of Jesus, no stories about his birth or death, just his teachings. Jesus says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you." He says, "The kingdom of God is inside you and all around you, not in buildings of wood and stone. Split a piece of wood and I am there. Lift a stone and you will find me." Do you see what he's saying? The divine isn't somewhere out there in heaven waiting for you after death. It's here, now, inside you. This is radical stuff. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene goes even further. In this text, Mary Magdalene is presented as a leader among the disciples, someone who understood Jesus' teachings better than the men did. Peter gets jealous of her. He doesn't want to listen to a woman. And Jesus? In this gospel, Jesus teaches that salvation doesn't come from his death on the cross. It comes from inner knowledge, from understanding the divine nature within yourself. The question we, SHOLD, ask. Now, here's the question that should be burning in your mind right now. If these texts existed in the early centuries of Christianity, if early Christians read them and valued them, why aren't they in the Bible? Who decided they shouldn't be included? And why? The Council. The year is 325 AD, nearly 300 years after Jesus walked the earth. Christianity has spread across the Roman Empire, but it's messy. There are hundreds of different Christian communities, and they all have different beliefs, different texts, different ways of understanding Jesus. Some Christians believe Jesus was fully divine. Others believe he was fully human. Some believe in one God. Others see a divine hierarchy. Some communities follow the Gospel of Thomas. Others reject it. The Roman Emperor Constantine has a problem. His empire is falling apart, torn by civil wars and division. He needs unity, and he sees Christianity as a way to unite his people. But first, Christianity itself needs to be unified. So Constantine calls a meeting, the Council of Nicaea. He brings together bishops from across the empire and tells them to settle their differences, to decide once and for all what Christianity is, what Christians believe, which texts are sacred. Let me be clear about what happened here. This wasn't Jesus deciding what goes in the Bible. This wasn't the apostles. This was a group of men, 3 centuries later, many of them appointed by a Roman emperor, making decisions about what Christianity would become. They voted. On matters of faith, they took votes. And the texts that didn't fit their vision, the Gospels that presented different views of Jesus, they were labeled heresy, dangerous. They were ordered destroyed. The suppression. Imagine you're an early Christian in the 4th century. You've been reading the Gospel of Thomas your whole life. Your grandmother read it. Your community treasures it. Then armed soldiers show up. They take your books. They burn them. They tell you that what you've believed is wrong, heretical, that you could be punished for even possessing these texts. This happened. Across the empire, texts were seized and destroyed. Libraries were raided. People were threatened, punished, killed for holding on to the wrong Gospels. That's why the farmer's discovery in 1945 was so important. Someone, 16 centuries ago, had buried those texts to save them from destruction. They hid them in a jar and sealed it, hoping that someday someone would find the truth that was being erased. What was lost? So what exactly was lost? Think about it. For 2,000 years, Christianity has taught specific things. That you're born sinful. That you need salvation from outside yourself. That only through Jesus' death can you be saved. That the church is the intermediary between you and God. But these hidden gospels taught something different. They taught that the divine is already within you. That knowledge and understanding are the path to God, not blind faith. That you don't need priests or churches or institutions to connect with the divine. The Gospel of Thomas says, "Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death." Not whoever believes in Jesus will not taste death. Whoever discovers, whoever understands. It's about personal spiritual awakening, not external salvation. Can you see why this might have been threatening to people building an institutional church? To bishops and emperors who wanted centralized control over religion. The bigger picture. Here's what really gets me. We talk about the Bible like it's this perfect, unchanged, divinely assembled book that fell from heaven complete and unalterable. But it wasn't. The Bible is a product of human decisions. Specific people, at specific times with specific agendas, decided what would be included and what would be left out. I'm not saying the Bible isn't valuable or meaningful. I'm saying that it's not the complete picture. It's a curated picture. And so much was left on the cutting room floor. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene paints Mary as a powerful spiritual leader. But for 2,000 years, the church taught that women couldn't be priests or bishops or hold authority. Would history have been different if Mary's gospel had been included? The Gospel of Judas portrays Judas not as a betrayer, but as Jesus' most faithful disciple, the only one who truly understood his mission. What if Judas wasn't the villain we've been told he was? The Gospel of Thomas emphasizes finding God within yourself rather than through external authority. How might the world be different if Christianity had developed along those lines instead? The human element. Here's what I think is beautiful and tragic at the same time. Early Christianity was diverse. It was a marketplace of ideas, with different communities exploring different understandings of the divine. It was alive, dynamic, questioning. But as it became institutionalized, that diversity was seen as a threat. Unity became more important than truth. Control became more important than exploration. And I get it. I understand why it happened. When you're trying to build something big, when you're trying to unite millions of people, diversity can feel like chaos. Standards feel necessary. But what did we lose in that process? We lost voices. Women's voices, mystic voices, questioning voices. We lost the idea that maybe there isn't just one way to understand the divine. That maybe spiritual truth is bigger and wider and more mysterious than any single book or doctrine can contain. The personal impact. Think about how this affects you personally. Maybe you were raised in a church. Maybe you were taught that doubting is dangerous, that questioning is sinful, that you need to believe exactly what you're told or you'll go to hell. But what if that's not what Jesus actually taught? What if the original message was about finding truth for yourself, about discovering the divine within you, about asking questions and seeking understanding? Doesn't that feel more alive, more real, more human? Or maybe you've walked away from religion entirely because it felt restrictive or hypocritical or just didn't make sense to you. But what if the problem wasn't spirituality itself? What if the problem was that you were only shown one narrow version of it, a version that had been filtered through centuries of institutional control? The Esciatoleres speak. Dr. Elaine Pagels, one of the world's leading scholars on these hidden gospels, puts it this way. What we call Christianity is only one stream among many that emerged from the teachings of Jesus. We don't know what Christianity would look like today if those other streams had survived. Think about that. We don't know what Christianity would look like. The religion that has shaped Western civilization for 2 millennia might have been fundamentally different if different texts had been chosen. Different leaders, different decisions. History is not inevitable. It's made by human choices. Why this matters today? You might be thinking, okay, this is interesting history, but why does it matter now? It matters because we're still living with the consequences. When religious institutions tell you there's only one way to believe, only one way to be saved, only one acceptable interpretation of truth, that's the legacy of those 4th century decisions. When women are told they can't lead in religious contexts, that's partly because Mary Magdalene's gospel was suppressed. When people are shamed for questioning or doubting or exploring different spiritual paths, that's because dissent was labeled heresy 1,600 years ago. But here's the empowering part. Now we know. The texts have been found. We can read them for ourselves. We can see that early Christianity was far more diverse, far more open, far more interesting than we were told. And that means we get to choose. We get to decide what resonates as true for us. The bigger truth. Maybe the real secret that was hidden for 2,000 years isn't in any specific text. Maybe it's this: truth is bigger than any institution. The divine is bigger than any doctrine, and you have the right to seek and question and explore for yourself. The people who buried those texts in the Egyptian desert knew something was being lost, something valuable, something true. They preserved it at great risk, so that one day we might find it again. And we have. The invitation. So what do you do with this information? That's up to you. Maybe you stay in your faith tradition, but with a new appreciation for its history and complexity. Maybe you feel liberated to explore beyond traditional boundaries. Maybe you're inspired to read these hidden gospels yourself and see what wisdom they might contain. Or maybe you just sit with the wonder of it all, the mystery, the fact that after 2,000 years, the earth still gives up its secrets. That truth has a way of surviving, even when powerful forces try to bury it. Closing. The church didn't hide this information out of pure malice. They were trying to build something, unite people, create stability in a chaotic world. But in doing so, they narrowed the path. They cut away the branches. They silenced voices that might have led us somewhere different. Now those voices are speaking again. And we get to listen. The question is, will we? Final thought. If you found this interesting, there's so much more to explore. The Nag Hammadi texts are available online and in bookstores. Scholars like Elaine Pagels, Bart Eamon, and Karen King have written extensively about them. This isn't hidden anymore. It's right there, waiting for anyone curious enough to look. And maybe that's the most important thing. Stay curious. Keep questioning. Truth is out there, but you have to be willing to dig for it. Sometimes literally, with a shovel in the Egyptian desert. Thanks for watching, and remember, the journey is ongoing, the questions are still open, and the truth is still being discovered. What do you think? Did the early church make the right decisions about what to include in the Bible, or was something precious lost? Let me know in the comments below.